Chapter 1-14. The hero has a very bad headache. Feng Qin doesn't understand why his bed is so hard. Then he abruptly realizes that he hasn't been sleeping. Then the guy tries to understand why he feels so weak. He knows it smells fried. He tries to force his eyes open. Then a man's voice from the side starts to wake him up. Feng Qin opens his eyes. The first thing he sees is a chandelier made up of 3 identical squares hanging separately from each other. The brunette tries to look around, asking who is calling him. Then a voice from the side catches his attention. A kid with glasses and a smug smile on his round face looks at him. The hero is surprised by this development of events, trying to immediately find out who it is. The guy starts swearing, trying to get out. He was strapped to the bed very tightly. He doesn't understand what's going on. He doesn't believe that anyone has such a good binding skill. The fat man asks the hero to calm down while calling him a boy. He explains that they received a message that he tried to harass the girl. Upon hearing this, Feng Qin demands that the person who claimed it meet him face to face. The interlocutor claims that their lady does not have time for this. So the fat man is going to deal with the guy himself. The hero immediately asks what the other person wants to do. He already assumes that Chu Ziyou is involved. The man pulls out a knife, quoting the old saying that eroticism brings disaster, so you need to castrate to fix it once and for all. The fat man claims that he just wants to help his patient get out of trouble and become a good person. Feng Qin is getting very nervous at these words. He doesn't want to believe what he's hearing, so he shouts out that the other person is joking. Here the peasant takes the guy by the leg, starting to pull towards him. It turns out that the hero has chains on his feet that restrict his movements. Feng Qin also demands that the other person stop, but he is not going to give any concessions to his victim. He pulls him to him, starting to pull his black hands towards the guy. Obscene curses fly from the hero's lips. He really fears for his life. Someone starts knocking on the door of the room. The bespectacled man is not happy that someone interferes with him, so he asks who's there. After that, the door starts pounding more aggressively. The fat guy repeats his question, adding to it that it starts to annoy him. He demands that the intruder is already there so that he can safely castrate this boy. The man approaches the door, but the girl knocks it out with a heavy kick. This is the same girl that the hero recently pointed out to her place. She also carries a wooden katana. She wears a black short skirt and a white short-sleeved t-shirt that shows off her flat tummy. The door slams into the fat man's face, shattering his glasses. A member of the fair sex enters the room, finding a doctor knocked out and a guy who is tied to the bed, and his pants are half pulled down. The brunette freezes from shock for a couple of moments, and the hero does not believe in his luck. The girl, seeing all this picture, is amazed that Feng Qin is tied up. She is in a hurry to find out why this is so, but the hero at this time begins to think about the worst outcome for himself. To himself, he reflects on the fact that trouble does not come alone, so in his thoughts he asks 2 logical questions. The first is why the girl came again. The second one sounds like a suggestion that she might kill him while he's tied up. Despite his worst thoughts, the brunette bends over the belt on his waist, which holds him back, trying to free the guy. She says she can't untie it. Feng Qin falls out of reality, not understanding what is happening. The fight lover grabs the guy by the wrists with both hands, claiming that she will pull him out. She asks you to trust her. The hero, being impressed, holds out both hands to her. The brunette gets up from behind and starts pulling, trying to just pull the guy out of the belt. Feng Qin starts shouting that his hands are not the right thing to do. Radishes. You can see that he's in a lot of pain. The brunette still manages to save the guy. The hero exhales heavily, noting that he was saved. They both push their backs against the bed. There's an awkward silence. They both look at each other. Gathering his courage, Feng Qin still thanks the girl for her help. Clearing his throat in his fist, the guy decides to find out what the brunette wanted. A member of the fair sex also admits that she was careless last time, but this time she will definitely kill him. These words unsettle the hero. He marvels at what he's heard, wondering if he can just give up. He also emphasizes that the girl is very persistent. Chapter 1-15. The brunette perceives the silence in response as accepting a challenge, so she offers to go to the training room. The hero begins to sweat, realizing that he does not want to play with death. She slumps to the floor. Feng Qin is shaking all over as he lies on the floor. He's sweating profusely as he realizes that he still has the freak's drugs in him. The girl sees that the guy is all tense. He reaches out to her, asking if she wants to hit him. She also emphasizes that this is disrespectful to the fight. The guy's head snaps to the floor. This makes the brunette's eyes widen, and she rushes to check if everything is all right with the guy. Feng Qin abruptly gets to his feet. He is still dripping with cold sweat, but he changes his style, becoming a righteous swordsman. He assures me that he is fine, and that he is ready to die in battle by the sword of the interlocutor. A wooden katana of the fairer sex plunges into the floor. The brunette also says that noble people do not fish in non-calm waters. The guy is secretly glad that he doesn't have to fight. The girl walks out the door, noting that if the guy is still not feeling well, then he should go to the first aid station. At the same time, the brunette pours red paint from embarrassment. He closes the door and sends me on my way. As she walks down the street, the dual lover wonders if Feng is alright. She also wonders who the fat guy was. At the same time, Feng Qin thinks about what a genius he is. He remembers the girl's worried face, admitting that she is very cute. At the same time, the guy sits down on the bed. The phone starts ringing. Feng Qin quickly approaches him. He understands that the director is calling. This confuses him. He takes a couple sips of juice from his straw, wondering why she's calling him. The hero still picks up the phone, starting a conversation. He asks Miss Song what happened. The woman asks a rather strange question, which is a little annoying for the guy. She clarifies if she can call him if she doesn't have anything. The guy repeats the question word for word, not really understanding what it's all about. The blonde, taking this as consent, declares that then she will not stand on ceremony. After that, she hangs up. Fen's pupils widen. He doesn't understand what it was just now or what the headmistress meant. The hero suspects that he has agreed to something global. The guy doesn't understand what happened, so he decides to ask the headmistress about it. He dials her number, asking her to tell him what she's talking about, but just then there's a knock on the door. He goes barefoot to open the door for a new guest. The hero goes to the door, then pulls the handle, opening the door halfway. A girl with blonde hair is standing outside the door. Chapter 1-16. Feng Qin blinks his eyes in embarrassment for a few seconds, after which he starts to panic, not understanding what's going on at all. The director stands in the doorway and greets him. The hero staggers back, asking what she's doing here, but the small suitcase behind her gives us a strange hint. The woman replies that she came to see the guy. The brunette doesn't really believe this, so he immediately asks if she has some deceptive task for him. The blonde assures that this is not a difficult task, but the hero does not allow the interlocutor to finish, stating that he refuses to do so. The director doesn't say anything. She goes to the guy's apartment, sitting down on a comfortable chair. The director explains the situation. It turns out that their school is going to hold a walkout, and each class decided where they should go. The blackboard also allows them to go to the same place to cut costs, but Tong Fei Lu in their class doesn't agree. The woman asks the guy to try to convince her. The brunette repeats that he has already given up on it. After processing the information a little, Feng Qin still decides to clarify why, in the opinion of the interlocutor, the girl should listen to him because she did not hit him in the past. The headmistress smiles rapaciously at this. The blonde declares that it's time for the guy to show his charm. She invites him to become a prince. The woman imagines the other person completely naked with a shiny body and a rose between her lips. The brunette also notes that the style of the prince of women is very creepy. Privately, he doesn't know what's going on. The hero declares that he politely refuses to do so. At the same time, he makes a serious face, thinking that he is an honest person who will not betray his body. The interlocutor only laughs at this, stating that they will go to the beach, where the girls will be in swimsuits. Hearing this, the guy's face changes. Feng Qin is already picturing all of her classmates wearing nothing but swimsuits. This causes his nose to bleed. He flies off to the seventh heaven with happiness. The director at this point notices another reason why this is beneficial to the guy. It turns out that if the trip goes out of budget, then their stipend will drop. Feng Qin abruptly jumps to his feet, realizing that he has no other choice. After all, he went to this school in the first place because of a scholarship. The guy declares that he will do it reluctantly and not even for viewing swimsuits. The blonde notes that this is perfect. She asks the guy to convince the girl before the weekend on it. After that, the headmistress declares that she will go on business for a few days. She asks that the interlocutor does not miss her. The hero begins to worry about this. He mentally understands that Tong Fei never talked if fighting worked. The brunette realizes that the girl always resorts to violence, so he thinks about just having a duel with her. At the same time, in the women's bathroom, girls communicate with each other while taking a shower. Moya Zhao asks her friend if she has heard about Feng Qin escaping Chu Zioyi's revenge. Chapter 1-17. Three witches throw towels over themselves, starting a conversation. Wei Wei Tong notices that the newcomer even destroyed the staff sent by his friend. Tong Fei Lu also claims that he didn't drink Moya's drink either, noting that this time the guy was very wary. Moya Zhao offers to meet him in a secret place and just strangle him. Tong Fei Lu doesn't quite understand how her friend is going to do this. At the same time, she continues to take a shower. Moya Zhao gets up from her seat and sneaks up behind the girl. She abruptly grabs Tong Fei Lu's pineapples with both hands, stating that she needs to use this to strangle him. Moya Zhao asks you to trust her, and then the blue-haired girl can do it. After a few moments, the first witch detaches herself from her friend, because the latter has given her a good punch on the head. Wei Wei Tong also decides to intervene in the conversation. She notices that Kin is very alert, so it might not work on him if they take the initiative, so she suggests waiting until the cat jumps on its own. Moya agrees to this while Tongfei Lu tries to recover from her friend's abuse. She's breathing hard, blushing as she does so. The next day arrives. The hero opens the door and enters class 1-2. The classroom is very noisy. 4 witches are sitting together. 2 of them are standing together, and 2 of them are sitting. 3 of them smile, but the 4th witch, who advised her friends not to go to the guy, calmly continues to play the console. Feng Qin takes a chair and sits down in front of one of them. He asks if he can talk to her about STN. Tongfei Lu answers what he wants. The guy politely asks the girl to go for a walk with. The main group is near the beach. At this request, Moya Zhao and Wei Tong approach him from both sides from behind. They cringe at this. The classmate replies that this is not his business at all. After that, 2 witches step on someone's feet. It turns out that they stepped on the feet of Tongfei Lu, who immediately tries to understand why they did it. But when she sees that her friends make expressive eyes in unison, she freezes for a few moments, not quite understanding what it's all about. It dawns on her quickly. Tongfei Lu agrees to this proposal, and the hero already begins to talk about how if she does not agree, then he can. However, the meaning of the interlocutor's words reaches him. He asks her again, puzzled, what she said. Chapter 1-18. The guy inundates the student with a number of questions. He doesn't understand why she agreed to this so strongly, so he asks again if she agrees. Tongfei Lu also repeats that she has already agreed, so now the interlocutor needs to get away from her, because he has already stopped talking. She waves him off with a wave of her hand. The brunette, still in shock, decides to leave. Feng Qin mentally begins to reason why she agreed to do so. He understands that the answer was given too sharply, so there is a high probability that this is a conspiracy. He abruptly cuts off such thoughts, considering that swimsuits are the key right now. Meanwhile, Tongfei Lu demands information from her friend about what she's up to. Moya Zhao doesn't quite understand why the guy invited her to the beach. In response, the witch points her finger at her friend, stating that all this is because he does not want anything good for the girls. Moya clenches her fist, claiming that's what she meant. Catching her wave, Faye suggests exploring an ancient tomb that may be full of monsters. 3 friends are frightened by this proposal, stating that the girl should stop imagining terrible scenes in her head and start thinking like a girl. Moya Zhao tries to push away the thought of being chased by a ghost. She understands that the perception of her friend is upside down. Then Wei Tong notices the fact that the guy is really up to something bad. Then it won't be easy for them to get to him. Faye finally gets the message that her friends were trying to convey. The 3 witches begin to grin predatorily, realizing that they have unraveled the plans of the ugly boy. Nangong Xiaoxu, looking at her friends, doesn't say anything. She just sighs heavily, realizing that they didn't listen to her. The bell rings for the lesson, but the hero still decides to dial the director to inform him that he has finished everything. When he talks about it, the blonde is amazed at the speed with which he did it, so she clarifies whether the interlocutor is lying. The guy also says that he overcame great difficulties to convince Tongfei. He emphasizes that it was hard for him, so he asks the woman to give him another bonus. At the same time, Song is lying in the bathroom completely naked. She assures the other person that they will receive a bonus when she returns. After putting down the phone, Feng Qin starts to think about what kind of bonus he will get. He is confident that at least a good hot pot meal is provided for him. From his reverie about the future, the boy is pulled out by the sound of the door opening, which did it right in front of his nose. He goes inside, greeting those inside and noting that the door is unlocked. He takes a step into the room and sees the brunette changing clothes. Her skirt is slightly lowered, so that her shorts are visible, and only her bra is on top, which she is trying to take off. It turns out to be Chu Zioye. The girl turns her surprised gaze to the guest. The hero is struck by lightning. She freezes, becoming a stone statue. He's definitely in good shape now. Chapter 1-19. Feng Qin doesn't understand why Chu Zioye is here. This is becoming a very unpleasant coincidence. On the face of the girl keeps absolute poffagism to what is happening. She stares at him for a few seconds, not even bothering to cover up. The hero covers his face with his hand, not knowing what to do. The brunette understands that he is in deep trouble, because the last time she almost killed him, castrated it. She wonders nervously what he should do. The representative of the fair sex also puts her hand in the bag, starting to dig in it. The hero grits his teeth, realizing that you can't just calmly wait for your death, so he decides to do something. Feng Qin takes a deep breath. A lot of thoughts are running through his head. He finds a solution by telling himself not to despair and assuring himself that this is a matter of life and death. The guy abruptly pulls out his phone and starts taking pictures on it at maximum speed. After finishing an unplanned photo shoot, the guy says that if the girl does not want these photos to get on the network, then she should listen to him. Inwardly, Feng Qin is already happy, calling himself a genius, because he believes that as long as he has these photos of the interlocutor, she will not bother him. On the face of the interlocutor is still a mask of absolute indifference. She finally pulls something out of her bag. It's a grenade. A representative of the fair sex calmly pulled the pin and threw a grenade. A dangerous object rolled across the floor, flying next to the hero. The dark-haired man closed his eyes, realizing that his situation was very bad. Oh braced himself for death, but when nothing happened 5 seconds later, he decided to take a look around. The guy was surprised to realize that it was a fake. Shu Ziyou hurried to explain that it was a micro-anti-tank grenade that erased the data of any civilian electronic device within a 2-meter radius. After that, the girl offered to check the phone to the interlocutor. When he tried to turn on the phone, he realized that it had stopped working altogether. The representative of the fair sex also stated the fact that his photos were erased. After that, Feng Qin broke out in a cold sweat from the realization that he had nothing else. The girl didn't stop there. She pointed to a working camera in the corner and said that she had recorded a guy breaking into the women's locker room and taking photos to threaten her. This news finally finished off the hero, who was clearly not ready for such a thing. Chu Ziyou decided to clarify what the dark-haired man would do now, because if she gave it to the police, then he would definitely go to jail. Feng Qin gathers his thoughts, realizing that he has no other choice. Of all the things, it can only do this. He's going to use a secret skill. The hero falls to his knees, bowing his head to the floor and begging Milady to spare him. Chu Ziyou grins, suggesting that the guy do something unusual. From her face, it becomes clear that you should not expect something adequate. A representative of the fair sex, without hesitation, stretches her stocking's leg to the guy, offering to lick it. Chapter 1-20. The guy sticks out his tongue, intending to comply with the girl's request, but a handsome guy with blonde hair and a black suit walks into the locker room. He says it's time for Milady to go to class. At the same time, he makes a bow, not paying any attention to the hero. Chu Ziyou looks at her subordinate, who is humbly waiting for her, and then looks at the guy on his knees, who is making eyes at her, literally begging for mercy. Chu Ziyou decides to spare Feng. She is about to go change, so she informs him that he can go now. The hero flies up on the spot, declaring that he is already leaving. While the guy has not yet left, the fair sex representative rises from her seat, noticing that in the future Feng will not say no if she needs him. The brunette can only accept these words. Running out of the women's locker room, the guy exhales heavily, trying to catch his breath. He realizes that he is seriously hit, because Chu Ziyou seems to have stuck an arrow in him. The guy doesn't know what to do, already assuming he's finished. Then he abruptly corrects himself that he would have been finished if it hadn't been for that butler. A logical question pops into his head. Why would he suddenly decide to help him? At the same time, Chu Ziyou notes that Lawrence didn't show up earlier, so as not to stop the newcomer, and waited until she did something, and then helped him leave. A representative of the fair sex says that it was very insidious. The butler is doubtful that it was even a little insidious. The word really in his performance introduces the girl into dissonance. The hero wonders how Chu Ziyou is going to pursue him. The guy thinks she's really a killer lady. The sharp sound of the message scares the hero. He jumps up and down, then picks up his phone to read the message. Tong Fei Lu also reports that 2MRW will be running for 7 days and 7 nights. She advises him to go to bed early today, because she will be waiting for him at 5:45 in the morning at the gate, from where 2 Mr. W will start. MRW, morale, recreation and welfare. Feng also swears about why it's so early. He doubts that this is a picnic, because it's more like military training. Meanwhile, in the girls' dorm, Tong Fei Lu says that the message for Qin was sent 15 milliseconds earlier, and now the Y show starts. Tan also says that you should not worry, because this is a pure virgin boy. Lu doesn't understand how his girlfriend knows he's clean. She assumes he's an animal. This makes Y laugh. The other 2 witches are just watching from the sidelines. Tun notes that her friends are too vigilant, because they always think that boys are animals. Y herself believes that Feng Qin is close to girls because he is used to it, not because he is good at it. She also assumes that he has a sister. From all this, she deduces that once she is on top of him, he will surely be seduced. Chapter 1-21. Dawn is coming. The hero moves to the collection point. He yawns. It shows that he didn't get enough sleep. The brunette notes that he was very worried, which is why he did not sleep well. He's very sleepy right now, and his brain is still thinking about how that girl is going to torture him. He is afraid of her, imagining her as a succubus with 2 horns on her head. At the same time, there are gusts of evil wind, which gives the hero the impression that someone is standing behind him. Feng Qin tries to push such thoughts away. He decides that he needs to hurry, so it's best not to slow down on the way to the gate. When he reaches them, he notices that the place is still empty. A mysterious silence envelops the gate, which is disconcerting. It's 5:45. This finally surprises the guy who doesn't understand what's going on and where everyone is. He begins to fear that he is too late, so his brain figures out what to do now. The hero thinks about waiting a little longer, but the sound of falling from behind attracts his attention. Feng Qin turns around and sees the building from which the sound was heard. He walks up to it. Finding that the door is not closed, he decides to enter, immediately asking who is there. There's no answer, and Thun is lying on the field among the basketballs. She fell down so that her underwear is visible to anyone entering. The hero greets, deciding to find out if everything is all right with her. The student does not show that she has woken up. The guy notices that it's Wei Tong. He is very embarrassed when he sees her panties under her skirt. Feng Qin extends his hand to the girl, but she doesn't accept it. Then he grabs her by the shoulder to sit her down. The witch also reports that her leg hurts. This makes the other person even more perplexed. The hero sees that the girl really has a lump on her leg. He decides to take a representative of the fair sex to the first aid station and informs her about it. He grabs her by the hips, pulling her onto her back. The guy is a little embarrassed, but still starts to move forward. Feng Qin feels that the girl is pressing her whole body against him, which makes him feel her pineapples, which are a decent size. He is very embarrassed by this, but continues to carry the girl on himself. Tun decides to strike up a conversation. She very gently whispers words of gratitude in the hero's ear, causing him to start burning with embarrassment. This gives him the creeps, but he declares that everything is fine, and then rushes to change the subject, asking why it fell in the warehouse. Wei also says that she went to the warehouse to get a picnic napkin and accidentally touched the basket. Feng Qin refers a representative of the fair sex to medical center. She sits her down on a bench, noting that when the nurse comes, he will give her some salve and everything will be fine. Tun claims that the nurse won't be here today, so she has to meet them at the beach. Hearing this, the brunette wonders what to do then. Wei holds out a leg to the other person, asking them to do something for her. At the same time, she makes the most innocent face in the world. Chapter 1-22. The guy still agrees to this. He asks her to hold on, considering it painful. Tun puts his hands together, noting the other's concern. The hero applies ointment to the damaged area, and then declares that it is good now, so he advises the girl to have a good rest before meeting with the others. He keeps a feigned calm as he prepares to leave. Feng Qin resolutely leaves the infirmary, although it can be seen that it is very difficult for him. Tun falls on her side with a heavy exhalation, and when the guy leaves, she asks her friends to come out. Tong Fei Lu starts the conversation. She's amazed that the new guy really didn't do anything to her friend. It can be seen that the girl really wants to catch him and beat him on the spot. Tun also notes that if it was so easy with him, then she would not have to interfere. Tong Fei Lu decides to clarify what her friend thinks about this. Wei also claims that Feng will get suspicious if she just approaches him, so she needs a good reason to do so. Moya Zhao notices that the last time she gave him water for no reason. He was on guard, but today he helped Wei. The girl thinks that the newcomer will not suspect her if she turns to him. Tong Fei Lu also knows that this is a real insidious trap. The fourth witch is very dissatisfied with the behavior of her friends, but she is silent, not expressing her opinion. The brunette returns to the street to the gate, noticing that everyone is finally gathered. He notices a girl in the crowd who likes dueling. He can see that she's upset about something. The class gets on the school bus. The four witches are traveling together. Moya Zhao clarifies whether they forged seats on the plane. Tong Fei Lu answers in the affirmative, then asks Moyu to keep an eye on Han Yuding so that Wei can sit down next to Qin in peace. Tun also notes that the friends should prepare a scene during the trip. She asks them to make it so that they can complete them, which this time will be held at the airport. The class arrives at Chun'an Pinggao Airport. In it, all students pass a customs check and then go to the plane. Everything is going according to the plan of the four witches. Tun sits down with the hero, who immediately asks how her leg is. The representative of the fair sex assures that everything is in order, after which she once again thanks the guy for his help. Wei leans over Feng Qin's ear, beginning to whisper that she was very pleased when he applied the ointment. At the same time, she breathes very seductively in his ear. The brunette blushes red with embarrassment, and his head starts nodding at this. The representative of the fair sex laughs at this. It becomes clear that the main character will be very difficult to survive this trip.